Alright, I am back with another video, and today we have the second episode of the Patron build series, and we are going to be focusing on the Raven Queen. The Raven Queen is a particularly popular patron, specifically known for creating the first ever weapons infused with shadow magic, meaning that she is basically the original Hexblade Warlock patron, which of course makes her quite popular, as well as the fact that she has a kind of interesting sort of modus operandi. Basically, her whole existence is all about, collecting memories and strong emotions, like an actual bird would, like collecting shiny things. And basically, she is typically focused on stuff associated with loss and tragedy. So she has these special followers, elves called Shadar-kai, which the name might sound familiar to you if you've ever played tabletop D&D, and she would dispatch these guys to the far confines of the multiverse and kind of waits for events to unfold that would cause tragic memories and strong emotions, then collecting mementos such as trinkets, memories, and sometimes even the souls of the dead, and then have her Shadar-kai bring them back to her. Now, I think that immediately gives us a motivation for our character to exist already, because we are building what I'm calling the Gloom Weaver, one of the kind of different types of Shadar-kai elves that serve the Raven Queen. You actually do meet a Shadar-kai in this game, He Who Watches, but he is actually a bit more of a zealot who doesn't properly follow the Queen's teachings and orders. So we're going to be making someone who much more adheres to the code and pulls their power from the Raven Queen herself. And I think, again, we have a really interesting through line into the main plot here because, I mean, the Raven Queen, foreseeing the events of Baldur's Gate 3, the rise of the Absolute and the potential downfall of the city of Baldur's Gate, would absolutely send Shadar-kai ahead to, collect trinkets and memories and even dead souls to bring back to her from what is going to be such a tragic and cataclysmic event. So we are literally a raven, a bird of omen, come to basically foretell the coming tragedy. And as such, we are literally a scout raven. We will have the ability to transform into a raven, be able to, and we'll be all about like collecting things, which will kind of reflect in some of our equipment, but as well we're also going to be a powerful Hexblade warrior, mixing basically the abilities of the Hexblade with another multi-class that is going to really fit the build to kind of get as many of the abilities of the Shadar-kai as possible, because actually listed on the Shadar-kai wiki page actually does give us a pretty decent list of spells and abilities to pull from. They like hiding in darkness, they'll strike out of nowhere if spotted, and well, they basically do all the typical Warlock stuff. So we've got a pretty cool and interesting multi-class today. I will say though, for the leveling for this one, you can kind of take the level order in any which way you want. Really, it doesn't matter. Just kind of pick and choose what abilities you want to go for first. Just make sure that you're starting with the level that I'm about to talk about. So, let's get into the build. We're going to be kicking things off, unsurprisingly, as a Hexblade Warlock. I know, I've been building a lot of Hexblades lately, but that's kind of just what happened in D&D 5e for many, many years once Hexblade came out. It's just that good, and obviously this is the Hexblade. This is the Raven Queen patron. We kind of have to. So, this is going to give us a bunch of things at level 1, namely we get a couple of cantrips, and obviously we're going to take Eldritch Blast and Booming Blade, because of course we are. These are the two kind of main cantrips that I think work well for this build. Eldritch Blast is literally a Shadar-kai ability, because they are Hexblade Warlocks, so it makes sense to grab this, and Booming Blade, obviously we are going to be a spell sword today, and this makes us a much more effective one. For the Hexblade, I nearly said Spellblade, for the Hexblade subclass we're going to get a few things, namely 2 amazing spells in the form of Wrathful Smite and Shield, both of which we're probably going to want. We're going to get the ability to bind our Hex weapon, allowing us to use our Charisma for the attack and damage rolls, as well as be able to potentially inflict Hexblade's Curse, allowing us to deal additional damage to a target equal to our proficiency bonus, and the number we need to roll to have a critical hit against them is reduced by 1, so we crit on a 19 or higher. And if the target dies, we gain a bit of HP. So overall, pretty goddamn powerful ability right at level 1, and also we're going to gain proficiency with medium armor, shields, and martial weapons, all of which we do want for this build. And yeah, overall, a very, very strong early game spread to start. We are going to get access to 2 spells, and it is up to you kind of what you want to grab at this point. I would say Shield is kind of a given, but also Armour of Agathis is a great defensive spell to have, and is directly listed as one of the Shadar-kai's many abilities, so we're definitely going to pick this up. Moving on to our stat spread, pretty standard Warlock stuff, so we'll go over this quickly. Strength is at 8 because we don't need it. Dexterity is at 16 because it is going to be good for our Armour class, and it's going to help us out with some stuff that we're going to be doing later. Constitution is at 14. Pretty happy medium for this one. We want to more focus on dodging attacks rather than, tanking them with high HP. 14 is going to be more than enough for what we're trying to do here, and 16, again, is going to help more of our AC when we put it into our dexterity, but you can choose to swap those around if you want. Intelligence is at 8, unfortunately, but we just don't need it. Wisdom is at 12, as this is going to help us out with some stuff later on, but I mainly just want to hit for the saving throws, and Charisma's at 16 because obvious Hexblade Warlock shenanigans. Moving on to our skill proficiencies, I have gone with the Acolyte background because, again, these guys are religiously devoted to the Raven Queen. It makes sense to have a religious background, meaning that we're going to have religion and insight skill proficiencies because we are playing as a Seladrine Drow, which was kind of the closest we could get to a Shadar-kai in terms of racial abilities that are innately built in, as well as kind of going for a, overall design that still kind of feels Drow-ish while still being a Shadar-kai. If I could actually rotate the character, there we go. We kind of do have that going on. We did think on stream that Seladrine Drow was the best. So that means we're also going to get Perception, as well as we're going to be taking Deception and Intimidation because we are very charismatic. Right, that is level 1. Okay, moving on to level 2. Again, at this point, you could just go straight into our multiclass if you choose to, but I think level 2 of Warlock is going to feel pretty good, so we can pick that up now. We're going to gain access to 2 more spells. I kind of like grabbing Wrathful Smite because it is really good, and Hex is obviously another great concentration option. We can stack this with our Hexblade's Curse as well, to just kind of deal a lot of damage, but Witch Bolt and such like that is also listed on the Shadar-kai abilities if you wanted to pick that up instead. Entirely up to you. The level selection in this build is quite free. We also do get to pick some Eldritch Invocations, and of course we are going to grab Agonizing Blast, as this is actually an Eldritch Blast build. Although it's not entirely focused on Eldritch Blast, we definitely can make use of it. And it's up to you kind of what else you want to take, but I definitely think Devil's Sight is going to make a lot of sense here, allowing us to see normally in darkness, both magical and non-magical, to a distance of 24 meters. Our whole thing is being able to hide in darkness. It is a deliberate Shadar-kai ability, so we're definitely going to want to make sure we have this available to us. At Warlock level 3, we are going to get to choose our Pact Boon, and honestly, you've got some choices here. You could go for Pact of the Chain if you want to have a familiar similar to He Who Was, and you can kind of have a Raven familiar, which honestly would feel very, very on theme, so I would absolutely recommend you could pick this up if you wanted to. Pact of the Blade obviously will give you extra attack with this build. If you're not in honor mode, this is definitely a powerful option, but if you are in honor mode, you don't really need this, as that extra attack does not stack with regular extra attack. But if you want 2 extra attacks by the time this build is done, then you can pick this up. Pact of the Tome is also really good here. It will give us Guidance and Vicious Mockery, as well as Thorn Whip. Thorn Whip being very thematically appropriate for this build, because Shadar-kai are known for using chain whips as weapons. However, we will be able to get Thorn Whip in another way, so it's not a huge deal for us here. So really, this is a pick your favorite situation. And I'll be honest, I've tested with a couple of these. I tested with Pact of the Blade initially, and I did find that to have the overall most promising results, because obviously it has stacking extra attack in Tactician mode, but again, for honor mode, might not be worth it. Bind Hexed Weapon pretty much gives us all of these benefits anyway. I would honestly say, for the first time in a long time, Pact of the Chain for that Crow familiar, or Raven familiar I should say, is the way to go, because it just fits the build. Moving on, we do get to choose a level 2 spell at this point, and, well, let's be real here, we're going for Darkness. We also do get to get our Fairy Fire from our racial feature here as well, and you can replace the spell if you so desire. At level 4 of Warlock, we do get to choose another cantrip, and I quite like Toll the Dead here. Again, we're playing with a new toy, but it's a fun new toy. And again, literally tolling the dead, like the death bell rings. Again, it's kind of like an omen You get the point. We're literally foretelling tragedies here. We also are going to get to pick up another spell at this point. And again, at this point, it's kind of entirely up to you what you want to pick up. Again, Shadar-kai are kind of just known for having pretty much all of the Warlock abilities. So it really is just up to you what you want to grab. Shadowblade if you fancy using a different weapon. Arms of Hadar if you want some necrotic damage. Ray of Enfeeblement. Hold Person. Mirror Image. You've got a ton of options available to you. The Shadar-kai are known for teleporting, but we are going to get this later. If you do want to take the Warlock levels early, though, you can grab this now and then respec it out later. Entirely up to you. I think I'll grab Hold Person for now because it is a pretty solid spell overall. We also are going to get to choose our first feat of the build, and obviously I want to bump up our Charisma to an 18. And then at Warlock level 5, we are going to get our Deepened Pact feature. Again, if you're being a Pact of the Blade Warlock, maybe for the early game, maybe you respec into Chain later, you're definitely going to want to hit level 5 first to get that extra attack, so it's entirely up to you. Again, you can pick your favourite when it comes to the Pact, but obviously we get some cool stuff here. Because we've gone with Pact of the Chain, we actually get our Familiar to be able to make extra attacks, which is nice. If you went with Pact of the Tome, you get access to Haste here, which I think is very, very good. And Animate Dead also somewhat feels flavorful. And of course, obviously, Pact of the Blade, extra attack, the usual stuff. We also do gain access to level 3 spells at this level, and honestly, it's, again, up to you what you want to pick, but one of the deliberate abilities that Shadar-kai are listed to have is the Vampiric Touch spell, so I'll be grabbing that here, to be able to deal 3d6 necrotic damage and siphon our enemies' hit points when we damage them. We also do get to choose another Eldritch Invocation here, and I actually do like Repelling Blast for this build, so we'll go with that. We gain Darkness as a racial option once per long rest, which is great, obviously fits the build quite nicely. Now, at this point, I want to multiclass into our multiclass for this build, and that is Ranger. You probably already figured out why, but we are someone who kind of goes across all lands. We are adept at being out in the wilds, and as such, we also have some animalistic properties to us. Again, we're literally scout ravens. Like, the whole point is that Shadar-kai can turn into ravens. So this is another way to get Find Familiar as well, if you don't want to get it from Pact of the Chain, so you can still have the best of both worlds. But Ranger is going to give us a few things that we wanted to discuss. So, first up, you get to choose your favourite enemy, and I would go with Bounty Hunter. Even though our wisdom is not the highest, giving our enemies disadvantage on saving throws to resist our ensnaring strike, it's still going to mean it's going to go off quite frequently, but it's not the centerpiece of this build. And honestly, none of the other things here I would say are really any good for us, and I do think Investigation is the most on-theme skill proficiency to grab here, so I think Bounty Hunter makes sense. Again, in this case, you could grab the Beast Tamer Natural Explorer to gain that Find Familiar without needing to take Pact to the Chain if you want to, but otherwise you could pick something else like Urban Tracker for proficiency in Sleight of Hand, or one of the Wasteland Wanderer damage resistances. Again, whenever I make builds like this, I usually think Poison is the way to go because it makes sense, but I could also see Cold being a good flavor option here, so honestly, pick your favorite, it's entirely up to you. You also are going to get some extra skill proficiencies. Of course, as I already said, we've got Investigation, but we can also pick up Stealth here, because again, we are a stealthy character. We kinda want that. At Ranger level 2, we're going to get to choose our fighting style, and unfortunately, because we are two-handing a weapon here, we can't really make much use of a lot of these fighting styles. We do have a bow on this build, so if you want to go with archery, be my guest, but I do think defense for just a flat AC boost is the best option here. We also do get to choose some level 1 spells to start, and of course we can pick up Hunter's Mark. I mean, it is the quintessential ranger spell, but we do already have Hex, and I feel like that fits the build more. I like grabbing Speak with Animals though, so we can talk to our birds. I think that makes sense, as well as the aforementioned Ensnaring Strike, just so we have that option available to us, but I can absolutely see going for In-Hand Sleep or Long Strider as well. Again, it's a pick your favourite situation, so pick your favourite. At Ranger level 3, we get to choose our subclass, and come on, you knew this was coming. We are a Gloom Stalker. This is literally something very, very... It's basically kind of like the Raven Queen class before we actually got the Raven Queen. It's just kind of done a different way. Gloom Stalkers are all about hiding in the shadows. We get our Dread Ambush attack, giving us a +3 bonus to initiative. There's literally a part of the Shadar-kai lore where it's like, oh yeah, these guys will remain hidden in the shadows, but if you antagonize them, they will attack you before you can even blink. So this feels very, very appropriate. So we get a bonus attack on the opening round of combat and have a higher chance of going first. With our kind of medium level dexterity, this is going to feel pretty good. We're also going to get get a bonus to our movement speed as well on that first turn, which is nice. We also gain superior dark vision, so if you're not playing a drow, you'll get that here. We get the ability to hide as a bonus action, as well as turn invisible. This all feels very on theme for a Shadar-kai, and Disguise Self, because maybe we don't always want to be running around as a Shadar-kai elf, we do kind of stick out a bit. Moving on, we also do get to choose another spell, and I definitely think Enhanced Sleep is the way to go, because if we can't fly yet, we might as well jump pretty far. Moving on to Ranger level 4, we are going to grab our next feat, and at this point it's kind of up to you what you want to grab. You can obviously go straight to 20 charisma, which obviously would be a good thing to do, or maybe even bump up your constitution if you want a bit more there, but you do have other options. Of course, as always, Great Weapon Master is a viable option here, especially since we can use things like Darkness to consistently gain advantage on our enemies, so obviously this would be a huge power boost to the build, but I didn't use it in my testing, and this build was still completely fine without it. Not a requirement for this build, but definitely up there if you want it. Medium Armor Master, I would normally recommend for medium armor builds, but honestly, because we already have an uncapped dexterity modifier on our medium armor, this isn't worth it, as it actually bugs it out, so there's not much point there, but if you want to use other medium armor, that could be good. Mobile for more movement speed, always nice. You could even go for something like Spell Sniper if you want to make Eldritch Blast more powerful, Tough if you just want more HP. You know, you've got a lot of cool stuff available to you, so feel free to pick your favourite, but I just went for a straight Charisma boost because I wanted to be good at spellcasting and martial fighting, and this helps us get both. And then at Ranger level 5, we are going to get extra attacks. So if you didn't take Pact to the Blade, you would be getting it here, which is obviously late into the build, but again, since you still have your regular spellcasting, not a huge deal. You're also going to gain access to Misty Step here, so again, if you took this earlier, you can retrain it out. But of course, again, if you have Pact to the Blade, you can stack extra attack here as well. You know, so obviously, this is still a pretty powerful level overall. You're also going to gain access to level 2 spells at this point, and at this point, we kind of already have everything that I would want. So I recommend you've got one of two options, either Silence or Passive Outtrace. Obviously, Passive Outtrace can make the whole party stealthy, and Silence can just be used to shut down spellcasters, so honestly, I would say it's between these two if you're sticking to level 2 spells, and I think I personally like Silence more, but that's entirely up to you. Now that we're kind of done with our Ranger levels, we're going to jump back over to Warlock and grab the Accursed Spectre feature. When you are an ally within an 18-meter slay a creature that is afflicted with your Hexblade's curse, you can raise an Accursed Spirit that will fight alongside you for a short period of time. The size of the creature you kill will determine what you kind of Accursed Spectre you resurrect. Humanoid enemies will give you kind of your average Spectre, but bigger things like, say, an Owlbear, don't know why you'd be killing an Owlbear, but you never know, will give you something pretty big, and these things are kind of act like auto turrets. You don't really control them, but they're able to attack with ranged necrotic attacks, and if you attack them kind of with your like Hexblade weapon, they'll teleport to that target and do a melee attack as well. It's honestly really cool. It's like having a stand from JoJo's. But anyways, we do get to choose another level 3 spell at this point, and again, it's another pick your favorite situation, but a Shadar-kai ability is listed as Fear, so we can grab Fear here. But if you want to fly like a crow or a raven, I keep saying crow, don't know why, you can grab the fly spell here, but honestly, I don't really think it's worth it. That's just my opinion. And finally, at Warlock level 7, we are going to gain access to level 4 spells, and honestly, this is a tough one. All of these spells feel like they are appropriate for the build, some of them are directly listed as Shadar-kai abilities, and they all feel really good. So, let's go over the options. Banishment is okay, probably not my option here. Blight, being a big necromantic spell that is directly listed as a Shadar-kai ability, is one of my kind of first potential picks, so we can go with that here. Dimension Door, another great ability. Again, the Shadar-kai are known for teleporting around, so we could go with this. Dominate Beast, probably not. Greater Invisibility, very viable option. Again, we're known for being sneaky, this would make sense. Phantasmal Killer, maybe, but Staggering Smite is a very, very fun spell, and it's brand new, so I recommend that too. I would say you are probably going to replace the spell at this point, so we'll discuss that in a minute. We also do gain a new Eldritch Invocation, and I actually think the Book of Ancient Secrets, Book of Ancient Secrets would feel very thematic for this build. Like, literally, you just kind of picked up a book from somewhere because it kind of looked nice again, you are a bird. It's kind of what you do. This will give you Ray of Sickness, Chromatic Orb, and Silence, allowing you to cast these spells once per long rest without needing to use spell slots. So overall, it's just a little bit of extra utility, but there are other things like Mire the Mind for the slow spell, Dreadful Word for confusion, Polymorph with the Warlock with Sculpture of Flesh. You know, you've got some fun stuff. Beast Speech, so you can speak with animals, but we already get that from Ranger. You've got a bunch of options here, so honestly, pick your favourite. And that is the build. I forgot to replace a spell, so you can just replace an early level spell with greater invisibility. Right, my bad. But anyways, that is the build. And overall, what you're going to be getting out of this is a pretty deadly combatant. You've got a pretty powerful opening round, being able to deal big damage with your Dread Ambusher plus your Hexblade features, going in for that Hexblade's Curse, and then essentially getting off up to 4 attacks in a turn, depending on what difficulty you're playing on and how you build the character. Like, you've got a lot of stuff to do, but you also get a bunch of flavorful, fun things. You're very adept at being able to maneuver around the battlefield, hide in the shadows, have Raven Familiars come to your aid, or apply battlefield control. But overall, you're just going to be a pretty big damage dealer with some tanking potential with the fact that you'll be able to dodge pretty easily, thanks to our pretty good AC, which I'll get into in a minute, as well as obviously being able to hide in darkness. Again, this is pretty standard Warlock stuff for the most part, but then again, we are the Hexblade. We are our patron is literally the first person to ever make Hexblades, basically. So it makes sense to play the Hexblade Warlock as the Hexblade Warlock. In fact, we'll do a bind hex weapon now. Ooh, very nice. So yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty cool overall ability set. You're a high charisma character, obviously, so being the face of the party is no issue, especially with Speak with Animals, giving you access to all sorts of extra dialogue. And again, yeah, you just have so many cool things that you can take advantage of here, including a lot of damage. So, let's talk about the equipment and show how it enhances the build. So, first up, our weapon of choice is the Sorrow. I mean, if that's not one of the more fitting weapons for this build, I don't know what is. This is literally the glaive that was used to kill, spoilers, Isabel Thorm, Kefric's daughter, which is obviously a driving force in the main narrative. Our character picking up this weapon just makes a ton of sense. It's literally called Sorrow. It is a tragic memory in weapon form. And not only that, it comes with Sorrowful Lash, allowing us to cast Thorn Whip as a bonus action. I will say, as I've just remembered this, if you want to use your charisma for this, you might have to take your level in Hexblade after Ranger if you want to get the most out of this. I did forget about that. Whoops, my bad. So yeah, maybe start with Ranger and then dip into Hexblade and then go back to Ranger to make sure that this is using your charisma modifier, because this game is so dumb with how it handles item save DCs. But yes, you can go with this and basically have a bonus action Thorn Whip, which again kind of leans into that chain whip that we have, like the spiked chain whip that the Shadar-kai are known for using. So honestly, this just feels like a Shadar-kai weapon. It is a +1 weapon at base, but you can get this really early on into Act 1, which is awesome. But with that +1, you might fancy bumping this up with the Drakethroat Glaive. But yeah, overall, pretty solid weapon. A ranged weapon for this build is the least expected. While obscured in shadow, the wielder has a 1d4 bonus to their ranged weapon attacks, as well as it comes with a unique weapon attack that allows you to potentially blind your target. But the main reason we picked this one was because of this flavor text down here, which actually kind of depicts a tragic memory, which again, obviously, is what we're all about. So it makes sense to grab. But anyways, let's talk about the rest of it. First up, our helm of choice is the Covert Cowl. While obscured, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack. So with this plus our Hexblade's Curse, we're able to critical hit on an 18 or higher, which feels very, very nice. Obviously, if you're wearing a slightly different outfit, you can wear this as a hood, which would feel very thematic, but of course, with this particular armor, it looks a bit funky, so I decided not to do that here, but of course, fashion is paramount, feel free to change this up. Moving on to our cloak choice, which I don't have equipped, again, because of fashion, but if you want a power build, here you go. While hiding, you also gain that critical hit reduction on the threshold, so now, if you're hiding, obscured, and attacking a Hexblade's Curse target, you critical hit on a 17 or higher. Bit finicky, but could absolutely work. Moving on to our armor choice, which is the Unwanted Masterwork Scale Mail, and I have to give credit to the members of our community for this one, because this was a very, very cool choice. It adds our full dexterity modifier to our armor class, and additionally does not impose disadvantage on stealth checks, and gives us resistance to fire damage, so depending on the Wasteland Wanderer option that you chose, you could have 2 resistances, which is nice. But the main thing here is the fact that actually, the spikes that it has kind of look like raven feathers, which when coloured in the Julia's Dye Black from the Julia's Dyes mod, looks very, very much like a Raven Queen Shadar-kai-esque outfit, which I absolutely love. So, good call from the community on that one. Whoever made that suggestion on stream, I apologise for forgetting, but you are pretty damn fashionable. Moving on to our glove choice, we have the Gloves of Power. On a hit with a weapon, on a hit with a weapon attack, I should say, you can possibly inflict Bane. Shadar-kai definitely do a lot of Bane inflicting. It's one of their main things, so it allows us to give our enemy a penalty to attack rolls and saving throws, which is nice. We can only apply this once per turn, I believe, but hey, it's worth having. Moving on, we have the Boots of Striding. Again, a pretty standard option, but we have a lot of powerful concentration spells here, and we want to make sure that we can keep them up, allowing us to get a bit of momentum, allowing us to move faster after we start concentrating, and then we cannot be knocked prone while doing so, which can help us get over difficult terrain, and also say fuck you to Steel Watchers, because I really do hate those guys. Moving on to our amulets, of course we have the Corvid token, giving us permanent Featherfall, increasing our jumping and flying speed by 1.5 meters, and giving us the ability to polymorph into a dire raven, which allows us to blind our enemies and gives us basically a diet wild shape, which obviously makes sense for a build like this. And finally, for the rings, you've got 4 options to pick from. We've got the Ring of Arcane Synergy. Of course, we're throwing out Eldritch Blasts and Booming Blades. This is just free extra power on our weapon attacks, because it'll add our spellcasting ability modifier to the damage of our weapon attacks after casting a cantrip. We also have the Ring of Twilight, giving us a +1 bonus to our armor class while we are skilled, giving us a nice total of 21. You can also pick up the Shifting Corpus Ring, because again, it is very, very shiny. It also gives us access to the invisibility and blur spells, both of which feel appropriate for this build. And finally, we do have concentration options like Hex, so the Strange Conduit Ring, giving us extra psychic damage on all of our attacks because of it, will be very nice. We've also got some early game and alternate armor choices here. First up, the other game armor we can go for is the Spider Silk armor, giving you a +1 bonus to stealth checks and advantage on constitution saving throws. This will be great for the whole game until you get our main armor. We also have as an alternate option for the Gloves of Baneful Striking, allowing you to, whenever you deal damage with a weapon attack, the target will receive a 1d4 penalty to its next saving throw against your next spell. Basically, these are kind of bugged as well. It's not just spells, it's any saving throws. So technically the Gloves of Power and the Gloves of Baneful Striking are kind of the same at the moment, but if this ever gets patched, then the Gloves of Power will be the better option. Another option for your endgame armor could be the Shadeclinger armor, giving you advantage on all saving throws while obscured and a bonus to stealth. Obviously you won't have as much AC with this one, but a lot of people did think if we wanted to stick with the light armor route, and honestly this armor still looks really good, you could go down that route and get that bonus to all saving throws, which would obviously be very nice. But personally, I think the kind of headcanon feather motif on this armor just fits way too well. But yeah, that is the build, and overall, I mean, it is the Hexblade. It does everything that Hexblade does, it does it well. We add in some extra stuff from Gloomstalker Ranger to give us a bit more flavour and fun mechanics, and honestly, it works. It is a powerful build. It took care of most of my combat testing, absolutely no problem, completely solo. As well as the fact that I feel like a Raven Queen Hexblade Warlock fits perfectly into Baldur's Gate 3. Literally, we are here to basically document the tragedy and of the absolute cultist rise, and then take those memories, those trinkets, those dead souls back to our patron in the Shadowfell. And honestly, I can see why the Raven Queen is such a popular patron, because she is just that good. Like, her backstory is really interesting, like how she was a high-ranking Feywild queen who basically gave up, basically ascended to godhood to protect her, fellows and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of cool stuff going on with her backstory, so feel free to read the Forgotten Realms wiki. And I feel like our equipment choices, our and our build just greatly reflects that. I mean, I could not make a Raven Queen build that like, it's all about, you know, being a literal Gloom Stalker without using the Gloom Stalker as well as the Hexblade, and honestly, they make a really nice combination with this build. So yeah, overall, I think this one is pretty damn good, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So yeah, that is probably going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.